Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. First off, I wanted to say Happy New Year to everyone out there on the team, and Happy 2020. Yeah, still kind of sounds weird coming out, to be honest, 2020. But, last year, our best video last year was sort of a basic, comic book investing type of video that had like 2019 in the title. So I wanted to kind of, do an updated version of that type of video with some new stuff that I learned, and obviously got more market experience and buying a lot of books since I've, done that video. So I think there's a lot to add to kind of the conversation, I guess. So really quick, there's kind of 2 points I want to make that, you sort of want to do as a comic book, like 2 real basic things. And then I have 3 best practices, all keeping that in mind, comic book investing in 2020. Some of the advice you need with the new technology and the announcements are so readily available, so kind of keep it in that context if we can. So, it does say comic book investing in the title. So I think comic book investing is like, it's comic book collecting, but with an intensity, with some more due diligence, basically. So, you're going to have, the first thing I think to do is, sort of know yourself between that sort of collector-investor interplay. So a lot of times everyone's like a combo of both. But, if you're 100% pure investor, you're thinking about return on investment. If you're a 100% collector, you're kind of just collecting a lot of books on New Comic Book Day, and you have a lot of long boxes. That's what I say is the mark of a collector is, many, many, many long boxes, because they just can't help themselves but to collect them all, which is certainly understandable. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but right off the bat, you kind of want to, know what kind of collector investor you are. Are you more of a collector, or are you more of an investor where you're just really going to go after those like silver to golden age first appearances, which I think is the best way to invest in comic books, and like kind of early Bronze Age, first Wolverine, first Ghost Rider in there, but then first Spider-Man, first Thor, first Iron Man, first Hulk, and then like some Batman villains I think are really cool first appearances, would be really good investment grade books. So yeah, are you going to be more of a return on investment guy, or are you going to be more of like a buy what you love type of person? And yeah, for me, I'm definitely a combination of both. I definitely kind of buy what I love in the 80s and 90s, but I try to have that investment perspective, which I think is important. And what I mean by that is like doing more research on pricing and stuff like that. And we'll get into kind of some more details. Second thing I wanted to make a point of before we get into our 3 best practices is, just kind of one of the biggest dangers when you're comic book investing, when you're starting out, is certainly being aware of promotions and buying during the promotions, because, these big promotional events are on social media, they're online, they gather a big crowd of people kind of buying a certain item at that time, and that raises prices. That's what happens. So you want to be aware of that, and I mean, you don't want to have any sort of super ironclad rules, but one rule to kind of stick by is, you kind of want to buy just the books that you love when there's no promotion. So, when there is a lot, whereas what you don't want to do is really oh, you just heard a Disney announcement, then go out and buy that book, and then, a trailer just dropped for this character, go out and buy the first appearances of that character. That's not as savvy of a way, I think, than sort of buying what you love, positioning yourself sort of before some of these promotions could potentially happen with really cool iconic characters. One that kind of comes to mind for me is Batman Beyond. There hasn't been a movie of that, there hasn't really been, really anything. But I think if there was a movie, it would be awesome. And in the meantime, there's a huge cult following for Batman Beyond. And Batman Beyond #1, I think, is a really good book to buy. So yeah, again, you kind of want to buy what you love when there's no promotion. I think that's the best way of buying books, no matter what era you're in. Buy what you love when there's no promotion rather than when there is, because you're pretty much guaranteed to pay up higher prices. Okay, so in 2020, new year, 3 best practices here that I got for, comic book investors to kind of have a really good experience when you're investing in comics. And, you certainly want to keep in mind those kind of 2 things with, the heavy promotions this day and age. Be careful with that, and then kind of figure out if you're more of an investor or collector, and then you could zero in on what you want to buy. But 3 best practices. Number 1 is do price research. do your pricing research. So do completed listing searches for whatever book you may want. Like say it's like a Batman 251 CGC 6. Like, get some completed listings from eBay of that book, and then maybe go on like Go Collect or some other services that have comic book prices and check out like kind of a fair market value for your book. Then you're going to know what's fair for your book. And then when you see overpaid, people trying to get, 10, 20, 50, 100% more than the fair market value of a book, you're going to know that, and you're going to lay off those and not basically get duped. So that's kind of the first rule. Very simple. Get that fair market value. Know the price of the book that you want to buy, and that's going to save you a lot of pain, I think. And number 2 is be patient. So it almost always pays to be patient. I find, the times when you don't want to be patient is when an announcement gets you excited, or a movie gets you excited, or a show gets you excited, or just some social media buzz gets you excited. Those are the times you don't want to be patient, but really it pays to really be patient in those situations, because a lot of times 6 months down the road, you can end up getting a much better deal. And that happened to me when I bought the first appearance of Infinity Gauntlet. During Avengers Endgame, bought it for $230 in the CGC 9.8. 6 months after Avengers Endgame got out of theater, bought it for $155 in the CGC 9.8. So that's just a really good hardcore example, and both were in auctions, so both were kind of bidding for a week. Highest bidder gets the prize kind of thing. So they were a good measure of a fair market value during those time periods, and when there was a movie out with the Infinity Gauntlet in it, the prices were higher, and that's what you're going to get. So you want to be patient, and a lot of times patient means 6 months down the line. Maybe a little bit more if you're really early, something's getting you excited quite early, like this Taskmaster cameo or appearance in the trailer that came up for the Black Widow movie. So number 2, be patient. Almost always pays to be patient. It's much way better, savvier way of collecting than getting excited and jumping into certain books. Number 3 for best practices. Number 1 was do your pricing research. Number 2 is be patient. Number 3 is be independent. And this really helps if you kind of feel an independence when you're comic book collecting. It really helps you not get so excited about a Disney announcement or a Disney show, and you just really focus on what matters, which is like some of the artists that you like and some of the covers that you're really nostalgic for when you were a kid, or maybe a modern book really caught your eye just because the cover is amazing. You should, those, I like to grab books like that where Immortal Hulk #1 comes to mind for that, with that Alex Ross cover. Just wanted one, and I grabbed one in the CGC 9.8, even though I'm not too much of a modern guy. This X-Men here, Dave Cockrum cover. Dave Cockrum X-Men is like my favorite X-Men, and certainly with John Byrne art in this too, that's like the best team up for X-Men for me in history, pretty much. So yeah, X-Men 121 is kind of an obvious for me. Really nostalgic book from when I was a kid too. I remember, I don't even know if it's true, but someone back in the day was like, oh, that white cover, it's so hard to find in a high grade, blah, blah, blah. So, when I got into collecting, I was like, man, a high grade First Alpha Flight would be great. And First Alpha Flight is kind of like the Canadian X-Men kind of, so. Yeah, so number 3, be independent. And this was one of my best buys too. And, certainly we're in between Venom movies right now, and I think, Amazing Spider-Man book 300 has kind of somewhat cooled off. Like, it's kind of a decent time to buy now, whereas opposed when the Venom 2 trailer drops, you're probably not going to want to buy around that time at all, to be honest. And yeah, I picked up one of these for and this is a really nice one, nice colors and everything, for $1,980. And I don't think they're going, there's quite a couple on eBay right now where people are looking for $2,100, $2,200 for a really good looking one like this. Okay, so those were the 3 best practices. Do your pricing research, be patient, and be independent. Kind of seems really simple, but it's the kind of the simple things that can really get you. And certainly if you're following the promotions and buying those hot books all the time, you're probably going to end up paying elevated prices, and then a year or 2 down the road, you're going to realize that, and that can really frustrate you. So this comic book investing video about, investing in 2020 or some advice. You got to certainly be aware of the internet, aware of how social media can just get a certain announcement out there to millions and millions of fans right away, and what that does to the market for some of these comics, because whenever you got a rush of people who are excited about something that don't really have any prior knowledge, because they weren't excited before it happened, so when an announcement happens and they get excited about it, there's probably not a lot of knowledge in that market. So that's going to drive up prices because they're not really aware of what the fair market value of the book should be. So that's going to, and it, certainly I've shown you evidence of that. It happens. It's kind of predictable too. Like I wouldn't, really second guess yourself. Really, a lot of times if you're patient, 6 months, sometimes it takes. In that instance where I got the deal on the first Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, a lot of times it's just 6 months of patience really helps. And yeah, what was so that really is kind of concluding up there. Last point though, I did want to make is, every now and then, because you want to have fun comic book collecting, it shouldn't be like completely emotionalist investing kind of thing, which when you're real investing, that really helps. But to be emotionalist kind of. But in comics, you don't want to do that, I don't think. It's a little bit different than normal investing in some ways, for sure. But so you want to like break your own rules every now and then. Like all these things I just talked about. Don't buy during a promotion, this and that. In general, that's what you want to do. So then most of your books, you're going to pay like a really great price for them. You're going to be happy about the deals you got. But every now and then, something's going to get you excited in pop culture. And yeah, hell yeah, just go out there and spend, 10 or 20% more than it was before that announcement got you excited or whatever it might be. And go after it. And my example for this right now is that Avengers 196 first Taskmaster appearance. That's a book that I'm just kind of kicking myself at it because I'm a villains guy, and why I hadn't picked that up in the CGC 9.8 in the last 2 years is I had tried at times and sort of got sidetracked, I think, with other books, and so I am sort of, I've told myself if I have to pay up, maybe $200-300 more than they were going in the 6 months prior to Taskmaster showing up in the Black Widow trailer, where he's looking pretty badass. Those prices, so yeah, maybe I'll have to pay up for that one, all in, the sense of having that pride of ownership and having a CGC 9.8 white pages of Avengers 196 first Taskmaster, and that'll be cool when the movie comes out. You can just see it, and it's a good feeling. But I wouldn't doubt that in a year from now, maybe a little bit longer with, I don't know exactly when the Black Widow's coming out yet, but when that kind of dies down, when Taskmaster hype dies down a bit, I've resigned myself to see lower prices for Avengers 196 if I end up buying it in the next couple months here. And you should know that going in. It's certainly, and that's, break your own rules, but kind of know when you're breaking your own rules, and you don't want to do it too much because, you definitely, there's no reason why, especially with 80s and 90s books, if you're kind of similar to me, collecting in this era, better to be patient. They're not super, super rare in the CGC 9.8, although some of them are, but better to be patient and probably get a better price most of the time. But certainly, break your rules sometimes, and all in the name of having fun, maybe do, a couple overpays a year aren't anything to get frustrated about, I would say. Because that's a lot about what this video is, I think. You can get frustrated if you think you're getting good deals and you think your books are going to go up to just keep steadily going up and up and up, because usually that doesn't happen. It's it's all those things that go up that takes a lot of time to happen. Certainly you shouldn't really be even caring about the prices, in my opinion, in the first 3 to 5 years you would buy some of these books. Because they'll fluctuate, they'll go up and down, and they might frustrate you, and you want to be aware of that. But yeah, you want to be aware of some of the fair market value prices as we talk about, so you don't overpay, and that's kind of one of the big mistakes. And certainly, in 2020 with all the announcements and technology, and so many people can get these announcements instantly, so that really affects market prices, and you want to keep that in mind too. Okay, I think, my 3 best, I'll just kind of quickly go over the 3 best practices. It was do your pricing research, number 1. Number 2, be patient. And number 3 was be independent. And the first 2 things to kind of nail down is the collector-investor interplay. You'll be a combo of both. So, figure out if you want to go 100% return on investment or some return on investment and more collector, or less collector, more return on investment. Certainly that'll be a mix for you to decide. And then, the the second thing we drilled down at the beginning was buying during promotions. Be aware, basically almost never do that, otherwise you'll be overpaying. And if you do that, at least know you're overpaying type of deal. Okay, that's going to be all for today's video. If you haven't already, please, I'd invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Hit the bell, get all our latest notifications. Add me on Instagram or Twitter too. Yeah, more active on Instagram, gotta say. So message me on Instagram if you wanted to talk about anything. But thank you very much for watching. Happy New Year to everyone. I'll see you on the next video.